So we're going to be the last one is to leave. The pile eventually, not too much longer. Our turn was to leave. And we left, we hung out outside for a while. And I can't tell you that I remember exactly what was going on in my mind outside. What I remember was there was a lot of activity. Hatzalah was going back. It was at one point though, I left with my siblings back home. Both my parents stayed. My mother eventually made it back. My father was not seen all night. The next day he came to bring some food for my grandfather who didn't leave the whole time. And Simchas Torah at night, I don't remember Hakafas. I don't know where I was. I do remember at Simchas Torah by day, the morning after, I was in Senate 70. And that's when the new reality kicked in. The 70 is full of people. Hakafas is going on. And when anyone knows Mustama that the Rebbe on Simchas Torah, both at night and at day, received the kibbutz of the whole first Ataresa. The second and third, he only did the first and last pasuk. But the first Ataresa, he did all the psukim. I remember that they were machtes, isn't machabit, that so and so purchased the schus that the Rebbe should say the pasuk Ataresa. And that the ganzen Elam, so it's up in the pasuk, Ataresa, whatever it was, the schus before Shlema from so it was like everyone shouted together the psukim, but it was kilo, the Rebbe was being machubed with the pasuk. I don't remember my choice. My father did not come home. He took us home after I got it. We went back with him to the state. He didn't come bring him back. Nobody knew in advance that the Rebbe was going to come in, or the Rebbe was going to say something after. So we stayed home. My father was in 70. And only the next morning that I heard that the Rebbe spoke. I remember we already had tape. At that time, WLCC was in 770, like where the Chabad house is now. We had a tape, and I was able to hear the sikha. Already from my third Shabbat Bereshis, I remember all the sikhas, first hearing the sikhas hookup from upstairs, standing downstairs, and eventually the Rebbe did start coming down. The farbremgs, the first farbremgs that came down was Keslo. The weather for what happened later that night, the first night, going back to the first night, the Shmini Atzeres, after the Rebbe left, the Rebbe insisted they finished the whole Hakafas. They did a much quicker pace Hakafas, just 20, 30, 40 people at stake. They went back in the room, which actors later said this is really completely beyond the pale of Derech HaTeva that was able to walk up the stairs.
This is Mel
Shmini Atzeres. The Rebbe, for a while, was in the room. Suddenly, the Rebbe came out to the sukkah, looking very pale, and made kiddush in the sukkah. I was there for maybe 15, 20 minutes in the sukkah. Came out, the Rebbe's face, color. This is what I heard first time from people who were there. It's much better. The Rebbe turned to Elam, made with his hand. Elam thought, wow, what a quick miracle, what a quick turnaround of events. And for someone like my mother, that was already enough for her to go home. After that, she went home. Ruth, she was calm. The Rebbe is already better. What happened later that night, in the wee hours in the morning, like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, was that the Rebbe suffered the massive heart attack, much stronger than what was downstairs in 770. There was a full cardiac arrest that took place then, to the extent I'm not sharing this to like say Lashon or anything like that, but one of the maskil, the Rebbe walked out of the room and told the people outside, so either came because he didn't understand or because so the Rebbe's heart stopped.
Somebody was there in the middle of the night. Or
There were a few people in the Rebbe's room, yeah.
they were with them the whole night. So.
And but there was a big miracle that happened. Then they did resuscitate the Rebbe, revive the Rebbe.
Or they had a defibrillator there?
I don't think they had a defibrillator. I think that they had electric shocks, had more of an old method of jumping back the heart. But the Rebbe had from then started a strong recovery. Now you have to understand, everybody. I mean, I'm not in the medical field, but I understand medicine. If you have a heart attack, the heart is damaged. Part of the heart
Cells dying.
die off. Right? You don't want to use it's a and the Rebbe suffered severe damage. So to think the level of activity of the Rebbe, part of the miracle, what happened wasn't only that the Rebbe was able to, went out of a matzah of sakon, but the Rebbe was able to resume activity on the level that the Rebbe did after suffering such damage to the heart. Is nothing short of a miracle in itself. And we take a look on all the initiatives that the Rebbe started after Lamed Chas. And everything that we have today, I mean, take for example, the whole idea of Tivus Hashem. I'll take something small. The whole idea that children, a new approach to getting children involved in Yiddishkeit, getting them excited with competition. It's a novel thing that's never happened before Tafshin Mem. They never started a matzo ball contest in this Tafshin Mem, which later evolved into Tivus Hashem. The whole idea of Chabad houses exploded exponentially after Lamed Chas. How many shluchim were there in Tafshin Lamed Chas? Yes, a number. 40? No, it was probably over 100. Close. That was about it. It was 100, maybe 120. I mean, we're talking about, by the time Tafshin and Dalet, it was like 1,300, 1,400. Just from Lamed Chas till, and now we're talking about 5,000, 5,300.
Information, but I think it was 11,011.
That's couples.
Because he was reading it wrong. 11,200.
So besides the fact that if we think of what gives us highest today, what gives us highest today? All the videos. What gives our children? What gives us the tools today to be able to bring the Rebbe to our children? The videos, and think about when did all these videos start? Besides yes, we have some ancient footage that happened in the early years, and then you even have from Freda now, we have from Lamed Vav, Lamed Zayin, Lamed Chaf. We're talking about nothing compared to the videos that took place in the 80s. I mean, these are all, on one hand, you could say Narishkeiten. On the other hand, think about because the reason I'm saying this in a sense is because sometimes I've heard this argument. Why do we have to celebrate Chodesh Kislev? Granted, before Gimel Tammuz, experience. The Rebbe is gesund. Baruch Hashem, the Rebbe is gesund. And every year, the Rebbe is gesund. We have to celebrate. But after that, there was something that Gimel Tammuz, the whole gesund cease to be gesund. So what's the whole point of Rosh Chodesh Kislev? So the first thing is I say about Batish The Baal Batish is that we, besides the fact that just like we celebrate Yutas Kislev and Yudas Tammuz, because that's what happened to one of the Rabbeim, we definitely deserve to celebrate Rosh Chodesh Kislev. But besides that, there's something that we gain from it. Even for someone that was born after Gimel Tammuz, even for someone born. Why? Because everything we have today, the amount of stuff we have today, even with the Sikhs, even whatever it is, there's so much things that were published that we have today only as a result of the nest that happened in the Rosh Chodesh Kislev, but we're living from it. This the PM on the Chaim, we're living off the benefit of it. So it's really a nest that happened to us. But I think it goes much deeper than that.
Good idea.
I can't say myself. What's Kislev from I can't from both. Because I said,
No more corona.
no, but you have what's the job? You have to say to Mishnah, eat that, buy him, like that, Chaim. It's a Rosh Chodesh Kislev.
The almog hat man.
Was gets back kid the sheikh.
Doesn't even know how it tastes. They were scared to say the time.
Yeah, it's good.
Scared of what?
Kanye Maraza said the time.
Allah salah. Rabbi and Gaxenheim. The only miracle of Rosh Chodesh Kislev over here in New Haven. It has to be farbremgs. We're all part of the miracle. And Shkeichel for coming.
Yeah.
There has to be Yemen the parties have to be farbremgs. And Shkeichel Rabbi Sternberg. I was an inspiration over here. I was the bulldozer here. And so she can all in the gas of the Ruchnis. Grace farbremgs. And we should wake up the Faslof and the Chevra over here. Then we got to start calling, not posting pictures anymore. Call Chevra. Come out and vote. Come out and vote.
Hosvare is kaffe. Hosvare.
We call him like a Saladite.
Meaning it's not a svara that has a tefisas machem b'kedusha. The whole svara is naman.
Living in the Hazak Ashmi, where Klippas gave him by. So you're right. The Svara is Nishkin Svara, but it's Yesh Maksha. I think it's a lot more than that. I think that not only that the Rosh Kislev warns with farbremgs. Now, also, despite Gimel Tammuz, despite that's the whole concept gesund doesn't apply right now. But in a certain sense, I think that the Chodesh Kislev today takes on a whole new meaning. The derech klal, only after the concept of tzaddik dispater, the tzaddik that passes away, the Alter Rebbe has to come, be menachem. Those who are nitkoy, who are depressed from the loss of their Rebbe, to tell them, Ha'eretachzu, Chai HaTzadik Einav Chaim Psari. The tzaddik's life was never about the physical, not about flesh. It's about Ava V'Yira, and therefore, his life continues. So in a certain sense, when do you have to start thinking about the tzaddik in such terms? You think about it, usually, post, if you could say that. As a nechama, the Alter Rebbe uses the introduction that it's l'nachem. Rosh Chodesh Kislev taught the world that before Gimel Tammuz, we already knew that Chaya Tzadik Eina Chai Psari. In a place where doctor said there's no chance for survival, or very slim chance of survival, unless he is admitted to a hospital. The Rebbe said, no, I'm going to stay in the 77. In a place where Chassidim, Rabban, felt that it was necessary, perhaps, Ishwa Psak Din, that the Rebbe needs to go to the hospital in order to invoke Koyach HaTorah, which the Rebbe would definitely have to listen to. The Rebbetzin interjected and said, no way. The whole world comes to the Rebbe, and we're not going to listen to the Rebbe.
It's like unheard of. It's probably the only human.
It's unheard of. It's not, it doesn't make sense at all within the rules of nature, within the rules of how a body operates.
And then the fact that you still don't go to the hospital, and you bring the
Don't
hospital.
go to the hospital. You bring the hospital here, and the doctors told him that he has only that there's a 25% chance that he's not going to survive. There's a 75% chance. And the Rebbe resumed activity in a certain sense. Everything after Lamed Ches was a testimony to Chaya Tzadik. the Rebbe in Tafshin Mem Beis, on his 80th birthday, should be able to, after bringing for close to 6 hours, to spend another 3.5 hours giving out Tanya to thousands of people. Are you sure? Because they used to be slow. Are you sure? Anyone ever heard of someone doing that on their 80th birthday? Is it Keches and Mushi used to do this? That when the Rebbe turns 85, suddenly there's a new minute. He starts giving out dollars every Sunday, hours and hours and hours. Who's the heck of one as such a hug? Where is there anything like this that happened? And this was a clear, Pashut, a Gilia Likus, you could say. A Gilia Likus, the Muchish, that there is someone that's in the Shalom Guf and has a body, and the body has aged. In a certain sense, it's even nicker to an extent, the body has aged. And yet, I mean, Tafshin and Beis, the final Tishrei, which the Rebbe, before the Rebbe had a stroke, those who knew how much the Rebbe was, well, I'm using the word kaviyachol, suffering. The Rebbe had a tremendous wound in his foot that was being treated constantly, which caused Zman very frequently fever, recurring infections. And the Rebbe stood in this for hours and hours and hours. First day of Sukkot, the Rebbe came to the French School of Message about 8:30 and stayed close to 2:30, 6 hours. Damashach afterwards, but we're talking about now the ability to stand in one place for 6 hours.
At what age?
What age? That was 89 years old.
You
He's saying
say
there's infection in his foot.
Huh?
He said there's an infection in his foot.
Major infection.
Major infection. His foot was ulcerated.
okay. Yisri Talmation, Avatibe.
I'm just saying that the whole Muslim, the whole Anhaga from after Tafshel Lamed Ches, it was never, even before Lamed Ches, it was, you could say it was beyond. But before Lamed Ches, you could say, okay, people have extra energy. They have, they have the ability. The Rebbe did things when he was 70, what a 70-year-old can't do when he was 60, what a 60-year-old can do. But Apple became, it's like, I can't eye that. But after Lamed Ches, it was completely, what would you would say, off the chart. And the mail, this gives us the highest that we should understand, not just a Pashena word, a Taylor, in Tanya, something that tells us that Chayat had the gain of Chayat Psalim. But then we go and say, but then we don't see it and we don't feel it. First of all, we do see it and we do feel it. It's just that we're at the Chaim that we don't see it and we don't feel it. But the fact of the matter is that we see it. Not only we see it, every person that only wants to not be blind sees it. Happened about 22 or 23 years ago. I called up out of the blue one of these cold calls. The first 5 years of shlichus, like you have like the naive, the good naive ability to just make cold calls. You're not embarrassed and you don't care. I called the guy. He says, "Do you have 15 minutes to kill?" It was that time. It was the Geico motto. 15 minutes to kill will save you 15%. Never heard that?
I don't know.
Okay, I don't know. I don't listen to the radio anymore.
Life insurance.
I told him I want to see him for 15 minutes. I promise him I'm going to leave after 15 minutes. So I went, and after 15 minutes, I got up. I said, okay, it's time to go. But, every time I meet somebody, I always offer them an opportunity to come on the phone. This would be a wonderful opportunity. I have to do it. Put on phone. No, doesn't believe in phone. But stay here. I don't want you to. I ended up speaking for 2 hours. Still not phone. A second time, he's interested in meeting. We speak for hours. Still not phone. About the fourth time, and after he has questions about whether Yitzhak Mitzrayim happened and whether it's true that the Yidden are Am HaNivchar. He doesn't agree with anything. I don't even remember how and why we started this conversation about what is happening today in the Chabad world. And I say to him, when the Rebbe fell ill, Kavshin and Beis, after Chazai Nada, there was a tremendous interest in the secular Jewish world about what's going to happen to the Chabad movement. There was articles of all the Fashtayers, the Nevi Hazam, those who all predicted that Lubavitch is going to collapse. And by the way, if you think about it, it wasn't out of vicious that they predicted this. It's a kite. They had a shtickle avon. They just didn't get it completely. They understood that Lubavitch is not like any other organization where there's a hierarchy, and you vote in the board of directors, and there's a president. So if the president is no longer fit to run the organization, the vice president takes over, etc. They understood that Lubavitch is completely different.
Yeah, they're still fighting about that.
And in Lubavitch, there is one single energy that energizes the whole base, and that's the Rebbe. So in their seichel, in das Tachten, it actually makes sense what they're saying. The Torah they see it is going to be a Gimel Talmud. Where's that energy going to come? It's going to collapse. And he understood that. Even though he knew very little about Chabad, he understood after I gave him the whole explanation. People go out, young people go out and go to remote places, and what gives you the energy that the Rebbe is giving them. So he understood that. And I said, it was maybe 4 years after the discussion in Zion. I said to him, how do you explain that not only that nobody left their post, not only that the engine didn't shut down, and not only that Chabad didn't collapse, but Chabad has grown, and every single week there are new couples that are going to remote places. He thinks about it. He says, you're right, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. He keeps telling me it doesn't make sense. And as he's telling me it doesn't make sense, he stands up, he rolls up his sleeve, and he says, today the good guys won over the bad guys. Was that long? Nothing that I was able to talk to him. Not Yitzias Mitzrayim, and not Matan Torah, and not Avremel Sternberg, not Yaakov, nothing spoke to him. But when I pointed out, he was following the whole machshava, he was following the whole, and then he says, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, for sure. Today he has his own beer tefillin, can't see mamash b'chol yom, but he's maniach tefillin regularly. He comes to the Rebbe, he experienced a few moisim from the Rebbe himself. And this is a yid that would refuse to come from because it's like and that there's any value to it whatsoever. But because I had the Gili of course, he realized that who b'chayim. He realized who b'chayim. I mean, that's partially whether he knows the term who b'chayim or not. He realized that Rebbe left. That's what he realized. And that's what got him to punch.
שהיה בהשפעה נס הזמן.
It need to have hashpanas.
Newspaper and phone.
I remember when I was a bacher and all of that. So, no, I'll tell you.
Links van Simpson.
It was in the members. Well, Zion, I don't remember what year it was. I think maybe it was Zion. I will tell you, it was then. Where did you learn?
We were still 417 show. We were still 417.
You in Zala or something? 417?
Yeah. Now it's not even Masifta anymore.
You were in Troy on the first floor. Till Tashmam Chas, no Tashmam Chas, till Tashmam Chas, the tower was downstairs in the basement. You remember the library in the basement, right? So the Zal was one big room. Later they divided it into a few. It was one big room. That was the Zal. Okay, but the Zal at that time was a peak of $140, 60 million. And then there was the library. Library was a place not only where they had a tremendous A-test letter, but it was also tremendous. It's a lot of the table.
It's always the library.
Yeah.
Sitting around the middle island over there. Standing around there.
So why am I saying this? Because I remember you surrounded to be still free. It's farbremgs Kislev to go out of match. Said, was is the pshat Kislev to have to think. A book with Gitaris Zal. You can say that Gitarai in the library is to read the bottom of the table. Stechte the Rebbe Herz. Bacher that leaves the Zal and goes into the library to speak to Rebbe Taylor. He's stabbing the Rebbe in the heart, which means if we understand that we're not just celebrating, that's like the whole Agdama, that it's possible so bigness happened. Bigness that happened is still M'chayev us because we can't just celebrate something in the past, can't just scream Ashreinu Matei Chokenu without feeling that you're obligated to do something. But if we understand that Rosh Chodesh Kislev is about Hu B'Chaim, if we understand that Hu B'Chaim means not only, okay, the Rebbe lives through us. We are all the biggest. It's like it says about Atameidai, that Yidden are the Eidos. On the Eidos there. So Atameidai, Chsidim are the Eidos, that Hu B'Chaim. That's a tremendous achrayus. We have to be gesund. If we will be gesund, the Rebbe will be gesund. If we will be gesund, emes chsidim, lively chsidim, chsidim that are following the Rebbe's ways, chsidim that are living with the Rebbe, then the whole world will get to know that Yechidu v'Yedu, that to B'Chaim. So Chaim based on we should take the inspiration from this day. So then on Lebedik chsidim, live more with the Rebbe, and have the Rebbe live through us, with us. We should be zeicher that we should become mamash see the Hu Yikalenu Chaim. L'chaim, l'chaim. Sometimes you zeicha to hear a first-hand miracle that happened, or a story that happened, a gili of the kus that happened with the Rebbe, clear testimony to the Hu B'Chaim. And you have somewhat of a part of it. So 2 years ago, at the Kinnis HaShluchim, Tavshem Pei was the last Kinnis HaShluchim before Chodesh HaTzimtzum, before COVID.
It's still there. It's still.
So at the Malav Malka, I happened to cheer that evening. I was the MC. And before introducing one of the speakers, it was L'Chov of Cheshvan, which was the theme of the Igeres HaKodesh of the Rambam, of the Igeres HaKodesh of Tanya. So Alter Rebbe finishes off with a pasuk of Kapitel Kuf Chafei in Tehillim, Eitiva Hashem V'Tevim. And then finishes off another few words. 2 more words of the pasuk, then finishes off with his own siyum. So I should avert that in Tav Shem Mem Hey, when the Rebbe Rashab started saying Kapitel Kuf Chaf Hey, the Rebbe spoke about Hitiva Hashem L'Tevim. God does good with those that are good. What does it mean? The Rebbe explains that even according to Torah, there are two roots. We know that there's Machlekes Beisham and Beisila. Beisham was more stringent. Beisila was more lenient. Since it's explained that it has to do with the fact that Beisila is rooted in Chesed, Beisham is rooted in Gevurah, and that's how it's Machlekes happens. So the Rebbe said that whenever a Torah, one is permitted to be lenient, that's the preferred way. Koyach de Torah Adav, heter, finding a heter. I don't mean being a cow, being a rav that always looks for the way. But whenever a Torah, you're able to find a way where something is mutter, that's Adav, that's the preferred way. And the Rebbe then teached Hitiva Hashem L'Toivim, that those who have a natiyah, those who have a lenient, they lean towards being more chesed, they get benched with toiv. So the speaker that I was introducing is someone that is known for having always looking to help, always looking to help shluchim. The next day, at the banquet, and everyone knows that the banquet, towards the end of the banquet, is this so-called spontaneous dance that is planned already for 25 years. I don't happen to meet an old friend of mine, a few years younger, but nevertheless, he said to me, can you explain to me why in the world did you speak so passionate about this Kapitel Kuf Chaf? I said, you want to know why? Here's a story. A few weeks earlier, my daughter became a parent. To Chaim in Manchester, overseas, we were having a meeting, looking to set the wedding date. And it was clear that it should be somewhere in the beginning of Tishrei, but the question was when. So they were saying it's Hanukkah, they have to finish Hanukkah, they have to come. If they come, they can't do the wedding the next day, they need a few days to recuperate. So it has to be after Shabbos. After Shabbos, the Kriyas was Sunday is Ches. Monday is Tes. Anyone knows anything in Shulchan Aruch, it says not to get married. It doesn't say not to get married, it says that Tes is a Yom Tainim. It's not a happy day. It's the whole reason why we don't fast and pray on Tes Tavis, because we're fasting on outside of the Tavis. But Tes Tavis is considered to be a bad day for the year. So it's not the Chatchil B'Kedei, it's at a wedding on the outside of the Tavis. The Aus Tavis, there's another wedding, close members of the family. The only day was left was Ches Tavis, Sunday Ches Tavis. Now, I always grew up knowing that Sunday is not a day to make a wedding. First of all, it says in Shulchan Aruch that you shouldn't be making a wedding on Yom Edom, on a day that's a holiday for the Goyim. And then there's a clear link from the Rebbe Midas Kodesh that says that Chil is not good to set a wedding on Sunday. Ad Masay Lachakos meaning Hamadinos. How long already will it be that you want to copy the minhag of Goyim? On the other hand, it is chatchila not to do it. The Rebbe doesn't say not to do it. The Rebbe not showing the Shulchan Aruch also doesn't stand a shli b'tach. So the Pel Mamish, dashu be'rabim. I mean, many people make weddings on Sunday. But my grandfather was a big cloud. And this was one of his, if he was alive, he was shaykh to tell him, he heard that I said his wedding on Sunday. He was shaykh to say, I'm not coming. Sunday, I'm not coming. Anyone who knew him knew that he was shaykh to say that. But for them, it's not convenient to do. I wanted to do before Shabbos. What do I do? The Rebbe says, you have to ask her out. This was Matzah Shabbos, we had a meeting. I got through to the Rav Matzah Shabbos. I listened to him. He said, you don't want to do it on Sunday because Sunday is convenient to you. You're not looking for the Sunday. You're doing it just to accommodate shluchim for their schedule, etc. This is not what I recommend. No problem, you should do it on Sunday. So next I went to the oil. I wrote a separate to them. I said, we had a meeting with Katanim. I want to do it Sunday. I didn't want to do it Sunday, but I asked the Rav that I said to do it Sunday. But it's a little bit hard because my family was so strict about it. I'm asking the Rav I should be able to go to Chasna and the Hamas to be the simcha to the I come out of the oil, I go into the Chabad house. What's playing on the video? This Sikha the Rebbe, where the Rebbe says that whenever there's two ways in Torah, to be machmer, to be mekel, not be Torah, you're allowed to be mekel, and if you're mekel, pay tiva Hashem the brachos. From island to Chile. In that Sikha, there's also the Rebbe said that for that reason, I'll begin, you cannot appoint old people to the Sanhedrin because they're not flexible. They don't know how to be mekel. And I took it as like I don't know. It was the bottom line is this Sikha spoke to me in a way where it was clear to me that this is the right thing, and this is, and I went to the Chaftim. So I said to this shliach, it's on my mind, and therefore when I saw that this is the Shir Tillam, I decided to speak about it. He listened, and I saw that he's like very happy. I didn't. Okay. I met him this year at the kids. 2 years later, he came over to me. Because you remember you spoke at the kids about the Tiva Hashem says, I remember very well. Do you remember that I came over to you the next day to ask you why you speaking about this? I said, yeah. And I said, I told you that there was. That's not the story. Why was I so eager to know what you were talking about? So he had a dream a few days before he came. He's from overseas. A few days before he came to speak about it. It's bad acoustics. No, I'm getting old. Just me. My Zayda got a last Shefer. Behind the Rebbe, so not the Rebbe, not the Zayda, but you're having trouble here, just me. It's the best thing as a teacher, it's the best matana which they gave me. It's good. Yeah. You're having trouble hearing also. Okay. We'll try to project. Do better now. This is what we used to hear when you talked before the L'chaim. Suddenly the L'chaim making a round down. I don't know. That's not L'chaim. Hi. So the shliach comes over to me. Oh. Start over now. And he says, you remember, yeah? Okay. So he says, a few days before the kiddush, he had a dream. In the dream, he's standing with a tillum, and the Rebbe points to him and says, you have to look into Kapitel Kuf Chavei. These psukim. The whole Kapitel Kuf Chavei is 5 or 6 psukim. And then he heard me say Kapitel Kuf Chavei. He got all excited. He heard me say that there's a farbremgs where the Rebbe spoke about this kapitel. So he went back and he learned the whole farbremgs. And that farbremgs, the Rebbe didn't only speak about Heitiv Hashem Toiv. A Sikha earlier, the Rebbe started the beginning kapitel. Shira Malois Haboitchim Hashem Har Tzion. And the Rebbe spoke about bitachon. That bitachon means that not that you're hoping that whatever is going to be, that Eibishter knows what's good for me. Gam Zul Toiv, but rather Haboitchim Hashem, as you know and you trust that the Eibishter is going to do only good for you. Since that kiddush, his wife was diagnosed. A terrible illness. And it was this farbremgs of Chavchesh with Tafshim Memhei. And the whole word about Shira Mal's Haboitchim B'Hashem Har Tzion that gave him the energy to be able to go through this difficult time. And during the Kiddush HaShluchim in New York, on Thursday night, he hosted a Suda Seidaya for his wife. And he attributed to the bitachon that he had because he had this dream about Kuf Chafei, and then he heard at the Kiddush, he paid attention, he heard that there was a whole farbremgs of the Rebbe on this kapitel. So besides the fact that at the time, it gave me guidance to know that the wedding is b'shat tov mitzlachas, it's a good day, but that it should still be in my mind a few weeks later, which is obviously, but I should use it in a talk, which was probably not necessary even for the introduction of the next speaker, but that a shliach should hear it, and as a result, be able to understand the dream that he had, and give him the koyach and the bitachon to be able to go through this. Tremendous thing. It's a gilui of goods. And there's no question. Sometimes we see it more, sometimes we see it less. But to them, we allow ourselves to be a mashpech, can do it. And we're zeichet to see things, we're zeichet to see the Rebbe work in this world in Yonam. So we have to say l'chaim, our grace and ness is ein Geshem, it's Rosh Chodesh Kislev. Mendel remembers what Rosh Chodesh Kislev was not Seder. The second Shkia started of Rosh Chodesh Kislev, the place was on wheels. Remember, we were still in the 60s. Remember, Benny Sarabansky used to tell me there was he had special shirts for Rosh Chodesh Kislev. You remember you were a kid higher than me. L'chaim.
not grab time. Grab it. I bought you. I bought 39, but I have it.
Mir geht's, mir geht's nicht.
No, I have it. Okay. Maybe they'll take it for 1 week. That's a commitment. They're not gonna know.
I don't like to commit, because I commit, I gotta do.
So 1 week.
Right. 5:30.
No,
Crazy. 5:30 you have to sleep, but that mitzvah to sleep.
we're talking about chitas.
I don't know what I'm thinking.
I actually did try to get it most of the time. He said, do it, it's a podcast, I find 15 minutes on 2 times speed.
Great podcast. You listen to it?
Yeah.
No.
But no.
To learn.
Yeah,
It's
the
his
guy
experience.
said, they don't read it, they learn it.
He's reading it, not you.
Question box, what's enough?
He could eat for you.
Yes, be surprised. People come on phone for your thing.
Shiloh should make kaina.
What's your time? Huh?
Shiloh should make kaina. This thing, they should make kaina.
Because then he goes to me.
Put it back on.
That thing is chatzur.
Right. No, but he's not. He's a healthy young guy. He's not.
I hope they have an envelope with them.
Right,
Chazer.
try to find 15 minutes of drive.
No, the chazer with him. To stay with him out.
All right.
Akima Svasa.
Yeah. Fine.
Chaim. You have to say the chaim. They love this.
Oh, yeah, you woke up.
Ah,
Yeah, you woke up.
usually most great
Usually
most
you're
communities,
first.
everyone comes in the beginning and they start leaving.
Okay,
And that happens to put it
You're gonna get your fancy.
Okay, the show's only misleading. You see a few white bears in the front.
You have to buy expensive.
Chaim. Say the chaim. Nee.
Yes.
Dat is de chaim ze niet. Chaim.
Over here.
Woke up. Chaim. And that Igeris of the Alter Rebbe, which we just learned not too long ago, Simon Zach. Alter Rebbe finishes off the actual Simon before the beer. After the Alter Rebbe says that you can still receive from the tzaddik, the Alter Rebbe says that kol hakorid al mishkan havaya b'chayav keidu levrach. Who's the Alter Rebbe talking to?
Entschuldigt, wir kennen Sterne sehr gut.
See, it's not just me.
Wer
Pascal jetzt ist mein Haar Zoom.
redt es?
Gesagt, dass bei Verbringen einer schweigt und alle hören zu. Aber ich kenne Sterne.
Is the volume
What
on?
up the volume, mate?
From the highest.
Who is it?
I have a microphone.
Where's the mic?
Haven has global farbremgs.
We're trying to speak.
Not just 600 people sitting over here. It's like thousands and millions that are watching live.
We'll try a little bit harder.
Okay.
So the Alter Rebbe says that kol hakorid al mishkan havaya b'chayav keidu levrach. Who's the Alter Rebbe speaking to? The whole simon, as I mentioned earlier, is speaking to those who are nitkoyim, the Nachim, because they just experienced the loss of Ramendel Oredaka. What is the Alter Rebbe saying to them? They could still receive the Hashpah today, and because they were so close, you hear better? Just tell me if it's better. Otherwise, I'm not going to straighten my voice. Chazak comes also here.
Oh.
And because they we're so close to the Mendel or Daka B'Chayov, so they're the first ones to receive bracha. So they the pshat, the better crown. First the pshat in Tanya. But this could be very disenchanting for people who were born after Gimel Tammuz, who feel that they hardly had a shaykhs before Gimel Tammuz. They could say that they were karev or mishkan avayim b'chayov. We're 27 years later. How karev were we b'chayov?
Zach.
Yeah, Simazah. So I once heard a pshat. I think it was Rabbi Yossi Chitruk in class. He said like this: Kol hakori el mishkan havaya b'chayov. If you work to bring the Rebbe closer to you in your day-to-day life, du lebst mit dem Rebbe, you're living with the Rebbe, keinu lebracha, then you receive a bracha. Now the Rebbe says in Tanya, the advantage that the Rebbe was before Malubish Beguf, and therefore he was limited to a certain extent, confined to a specific location. Even though the Rebbe said that when you do the Rebbe's Miftzayim, ich far mitayich, benich mitayich, whatever the Lashonis were, but there was still Agbalas, like the Rebbe says in the Sikh, right after Tafshin Yud, that before not everybody was able to go to the Frierdiker Rebbe whenever they wanted. Today those Agbalas don't exist. The Rebbe is accessible. But what are we doing to access the Rebbe? You need to plug in. You need to do something. You know, you're gonna have the radio there. The antennas are up. You have it at the right dial, but there's no battery or the plug is not in. Was have this meeting? They have to take the bankers. So if we know that the Rebbe is here and wants to have a shaykhs with us, and we have the ability to have a shaykhs with the Rebbe, all the Rebbe is asking for us, do something about it. As little as putting the plug into the socket. 2 epis. You brought up that Lichtenstein said Keravel time. There was once a shliach who was an Englishman. He said, "What's Keravel? You have to care." but I'm saying, yeah. You have to care to want to have a shaykh with the Rebbe. You have to want to. You have to access the energy that exists. Do something about it. Connect with the Rebbe. And the Rebbe gives us so many ways to connect. The Shiur Chitas, the Shiur Rambam, the learning Chassidus every day, doing the Rebbe's Miftzayim.
Nigla too.
Learning Nigla.
Amajan. Frierdiker Rebbe is Amajan.
But we need to do something. The Daf Epis Ton to be able to connect to the Rebbe. L'chaim. Efshe v'teilon alam zag l'chaim.
Now do it here, and I'm just saying,
Ah, that's about it.
Saturday, for the time.
Ask you for water, so get out.
Everything has to be in the back.
No, it wasn't.
How do you go from Kanye to you?
Hi.
Losing the crowd.
Losing the crowd?
Not yet, don't really get 5 minutes.
These guys. No, people are leaving now, not the Afim. Uh-uh.
Someone just rang your doorbell.
Chai v'chai.
My doorbell, definitely. What's 11:15 at night? Yeah.
I don't think my kids will wake up from it.
He's energized about it. Like I said, you don't have to plug the whole thing.
Fine.
Kids are shluchim this year was all focused on the Sikha of the Rebbe 30 years ago. Shabbos Parshas Chayesara Tavshin and Beis, where the Rebbe charged the shluchim with, you could say, a revolutionary idea. Even though that one could argue that the Rebbe started speaking about Mashiach intensely in the early mems. And then came Tavshimim Zayin, Purim Tavshimim Zayin. And the Rebbe took it to a new level where the Rebbe said that it's being transferred from the Nasi Adoyer to each individual to do whatever he can to bring Mashiach. And then after Tavshimim Ches, after Chabesh Shvat, it intensified. Particularly in Tavshinun. More specifically in Tavshinun Aleph, Harad and Floyd, and then after Chavchas Nisan. But there's something that the Sikha of Chayesara Tavshinun Beis brought to the table that perhaps wasn't so clear before. And that is that before Chayesara and Beis, one could have understood we have to be a shliach from the Rebbe, we have to do the Rebbe's inyanim, we have to do miftzoyim, we have to give shiurim, we have to learn in Yanigul Mashiach, and we have to bring Mashiach. In Chayesara and Beis, the Rebbe introduced a whole new concept. That everything we do needs to be permeated with the idea that this is part of the process. To be Makabel P'nei Mashiach. What do we mean to be Makabel P'nei Mashiach? Mashiach is coming, you have to greet him at the door. Kabbalah's P'nei Mashiach means a mindset. It means that you understand that you need to be ready to greet Mashiach. And if you understand that you need to be ready to greet Mashiach, that means at any given moment of the day, you have to be ready. You have to be doing things that are going to be appropriate for greeting Mashiach. So, Chaim, what does it mean? There was a shliach who brought out in the Kudah very nicely Thursday night of the program. He spoke, imagine you're expecting important guests to show up at your Chabad house, and you're working to prepare your Chabad house for that reception, and they show up 2 hours early. In the middle of working to appear, you have to be prepared. That means Kabbalah P'nei Mashiach. You have to be prepared to be Makabel P'nei Mashiach. I want to illustrate it from my small town shlichus mentality.
How did you end up there?
Good question.
Good shot.
It's a rhetorical question. Doesn't even answer. Manas Friedman says a good question should remain a good question.
I reflect good.
You know what Milano looks like even?
No, but I never heard of it.
Big place.
I thought you'd end up in a Hipstadt. I don't know.
It's a big place. What are you talking
A
about?
lot of, yeah.
Through London? They built the submarine tsunami there.
That's right. He knows. What's your name, by the way?
Khania Maraza Uneneto.
What's his name, though?
David Leib.
Like what?
Maraza.
Marazov. Nachum Marazov.
The other one.
Yosuf. Okay. Yeah, okay. You represent Gerish Nachum in Connecticut?
No.
No?
He's-
That's how you got it.
See, that's part of this question. How did you get here?
You see, I knew the connection.
Yeah. Yeah, before that, I wasn't a dome council. I'll pick one.
Still out to the Bach.
Yeah.
So let me give you an illustration of what New London, Connecticut looks like in a post-COVID era. So I'm a Rav in a shul. And a good day, when I first perhaps took over the shul over 25 years ago. We had a minyan a good few times a week. Oh! Jetzt heeft de gaan de farbremgs. De Chodesh Kislev. The Chodesh Kislev. You were there. Du bist gewesen nach Bar Mitzvah. No? So 1 second. Where's that? He's still in Crown Royal? He's doing, what do you do now? In Manvav, you were on Crown Royal.
They thought knew there was Grand Limit and anything. Like I made Crown Royal.
But that's machen Kiddush davon machen. Huh? You have any closings tomorrow? Any big deal? This is the deal. So you don't get over here. What's going on? Weiße kannst du sagen, huh? All right. We need someone to make Kiddush.
You just landed.
It's okay, where did you land from? You were also, he was by his other wedding too? It wasn't invited. It was a Vyshevsky, that was a Vyshevsky production. What am I saying? So I said, I'm almost got a minyan parmavach almost every day. Then it became every other day. But after COVID, we opened up the show just in August with the hope that we could have guests in August, but we never had the guest never came. There's maybe 3 or 4 people that show up every morning for Shabbat. Nevertheless, the door opens up every morning. We're here, there's 4 people, we dive, and they bite. 2 weeks ago, Wednesday night, a local guy, who's not a member of the shul, he learns, he comes to classes sometimes. He texts me, his Parshas Vayera. What time the service is tomorrow morning? I say it's 7 o'clock, but slim chance for a minute. What is? He needs to make a mishaberach for a friend, a meister. I say to him, I'm going to New York. I can. No, he's coming. So I knew that, okay, at best we have 5 people now for the minyan. I said a slim chance. I was being very generous about the slim chance. There was literally no chance.
You just spoke about the talking.
The other guy should have
I said there's a slim chance, I'm telling you, okay? We come to show with 5 people come to show. In walks in 3 guys from New Jersey. Out of the blue. Rabbi, where is the minyan? I said, look, we don't have a minyan now. It's after COVID. Said, but if you would have called me yesterday and told me you're coming, maybe we would have got a minyan. What's the chances that 2 people will come now? Because we were 8 already. I said, the chances are equal to the chances of me knowing yesterday you were coming today. But we're going to daven. We're starting to daven. By Shemona Esrei, if we have 10, we'll have 10. Get to Shemona Esrei. I looked back the whole time. By Azrash, I looked back. By Yishtanach, I looked back. To Shemona Esrei, I stopped looking back. I finished Shemona Esrei. I see we have 10 people in the room. I said, how did this happen? We have 10 people in the room. Anyway, we got someone to do shots. We had Krita Torah, you had the Mishabera for a sick person. Literally, out of that slim chance, that was like generously slim chance, a mini was blown into the tower. And I was I remember, we need things to illustrate it. Think about, it was Tavshnayin Ches, I think it was. 4 years ago, I left New York Zeis Hanukkah. At night, after it's in the last level, I left Eretz Yisrael. I arrived there to Yisrael 5 o'clock. It was for a series of farbremgs for 8 tables. The first farbreng was in Kfar Chabad by Tzoy Zeis Hanukkah. Sitting by farbremgs, started like 9 o'clock at night. Suddenly at 12:30, there's like a whole schrei. People got WhatsApp. You heard? Shalmaz Chaygarat. It was like such a fantasy, such a dream, even this guy, what's his name? The guy with the Christian that works. You know what I'm talking about? Who's this guy? What's his name? I don't know. Eckstein.
Yeah.
Huh? He passed away afterwards. So he was interviewed the next day because he worked very hard on this. And he was the one who promised Shalmar that it's happening. And when it happened, he was sleeping. Why? Because he was promising to happen Hanukkah. He went to Israel for Hanukkah. So by him, it was always Hanukkah. But the guy in Schlafen, 11 o'clock at night. What he didn't realize that Hanukkah in New York was still Hanukkah till 12 o'clock at night. And it happened at 12 o'clock at night. The Imdu Hachim Kuch. We experienced, by the way, I don't know what it was up here because I was in Israel. Chabad, the next morning was a Freder. They used it, people were dancing. People didn't even know who he was. They were dancing. It was a literal. There were those who were in the know, so to speak, and knew that there's a very good chance it was happening very soon. Most of us did not know, and even though that even Shalmar Tchai knew that it may happen, how many times did he have these haftachas that's going to happen? It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And it panned out to be a Luftmeister. In his book, if you read his book, just a day before, 2 days before, he actually got the worst news in his life. That he realized that all the legal options expired. There was no more legal options. And then this came. You could say that he had descendants. Of course, there were no legal options. That's what it, whatever you want to have. I'm not talking about to understand the events that happened. It's just the way it happened. It suddenly happened. Peace and Yavayad. And that's what the Rebbe wants us to live constantly with this idea that it's going to happen. Maybe you'll have 10 mashmanas. And you yourself gave up to have 10 mashmanas. You find out that in Rosh Chodesh you had 10. You understand?
Tried here also.
Huh?
To try there also.
There's trouble here with the meaning of it. No.
You finished Menashe, the minute disappeared.
Yes, Zaga, fuller.
Same.
Wrong cup of water. Never then. I was barely 8 years old, almost 8. But you were 14, 15.
I never
I was
just don't know go through
I'm a very childish respect. You were 15, 16, how old? My first interaction with you was by lasers. He just turned 60, you're just about that.
It's on today to move on.
Sure. I understand. Okay. They're trying to write a book. You went to read by
Yeah.
Remember that? Remember that was it? That's what it was. Remember that was I was 15, 16 years old. And 4 cups of. What does it mean for us, Rosh Chodesh Kislev? The Rebbe said this often. There were times the Rebbe said clearly, and other times it was more. The Rebbe took Chassidim and put them in overdrive. It was like a mitzvah by the Rebbe to do so. Take people who operate normally on normal mode and put them into overdrive. Like when the Rebbe wanted suddenly Yishvim and out the Rebbe's Mamar. He took a whole group of Yungalite who work in Marachazay Chassidim and Kutasidis, whatever it is, he put them to work. And for 3 weeks, this is what they did. Don't night, don't day. They did it. The next year, the Rebbe did it with the Madur Kama of Tanya. And the Rebbe even said when the Madur Kama came out, the Rebbe only asked for the Madur Kama to come out in the middle of Kislev. He said it should be ready for you to Kislev. And then Parshas Vayishlach, right before you test Kislev, when the Rebbe was already ready to Zayin Kislev.
Pretty well.
Zayin Kislev. And the Rebbe said that when he asked for it, he wasn't sure that it was deliverable. That was right. Nevertheless, he asked for it because Chassidim lady the Chazamen were able to do it. Well, take for example, I think they just restored that farbremgs. I saw a blurb, I'm not even sure. Yutas Kislev Toshan Chai. What's novel of Yutas Kislev Toshan Chai? At the end of the farbremgs, when the Rebbe made the Magdas, it was a Magdas for Kfar Chabad, for the development of Kfar Chabad. And the Rebbe says he can do something different than he does normally. He's going to read the pledges, and he's going to comment on it. And some people is going to say that they gave too much, and some people is going to say they have to give more. If I remember correctly, Shalom Harazov says, I don't know if it's your great uncle or whatever it is. No, he wasn't. He was a great uncle. What Zalman Harazov? Your Zayda Zalman Harazov, Montreal. Zalman Harazov was a nephew from Shalom Harazov. So it's a great uncle. Zalman Harazov's father was David Leib, That's why he's named Avremel.
His son.
He was Chanya's son from the first,
The real Jews.
right? From Ziv right? And Shalem is from Ziv Rishon. Who?
So they live in London.
You can't say that. You didn't even know say that. She was a real lady. Sheita Maraza. So, what was it? So that you all know the story. This is you know the story better than me. That the Rebbe said Shalom Arazov, the Rebbe actually decreased the amount that he should give. But when David Deitch pledged what he thought was beyond what he could, he's going to give something which is beyond the norm. He's going to pledge $10,000 even though he didn't have it. And he made a whole cheshbon that he'll mortgage his house, whatever it was. But then the suddenly turns in and says, David Deitch, and you hear it on the tape. Only after I heard it on the tape that I heard the story. David Deitch, dreimal zevke. You know the story, yeah? Alavesa, you know the story? You don't know the story? You remember David Deitch story? You guys don't remember, but you remember. His Eider, Yosef Mendel David Deitch. Dreimal zevke. So he started thinking, what is he going to do? Till now, he thought he was going to mortgage his house. And he figured he'll mortgage his house for $10,000. He'll mortgage his business for $10,000. He can go to the bank. At least this is the way I heard the story. They say, listen, you got to trust me. I'm ready to mortgage my house. I'm ready to mortgage my business. You can trust me for another $10,000. Yeah, absolutely. Remember the story?
On the tape. This is one story, 10 versions of the story.
I don't know. You tell me what the version. You know. Okay. You never heard anything about of this? Anyway, the bottom line is, he got the bank those days. It was a different story. You were able to finagle the bank in Europe. He got a loan for $30,000. He ran, and he sent it, whatever, he gave it right away to the Rebbe. And shortly thereafter, the way I heard the story, it could be different, he got a call from New Hampshire, a fire sale, 10 cents on the dollar, come bring your largest vehicle. He came and brought his largest vehicle. He realized that his largest vehicle doesn't come close to what he has the ability to get. So he went and left his truck here and rented the largest tractor trailer that he was able to get. And he filled up. That's the way I heard the story, maybe it's right, whatever it is. And in a very short while, he was able to pay back the loan, plus a tremendous profit. But the beautiful part of it is that afterwards he came to the Rebbe. At least that's what I heard. Maybe you guys heard that from him. And he said, I want another such opportunity. And the Rebbe said no. The Rebbe made with him a shutfus, but not such an opportunity. In other words, it wasn't about no gimmicks in it. The Rebbe doesn't stop throws with music. The Rebbe wants to take people Alashim Kerkenu and show us that Mizman we're able to launch something which is beyond the norm. You know, Al Kachendach, everyone knows that it's going to be Me'eves and Shana. Right? It'll be 120 years from Yudalf Nisan Tafrei Shalom Beis. Tafshim Mem Aleph was 120 years from the Rebbe Lashab. The Rebbe spoke a maimer about Simcha that comes from Bittul. And in the end of the maimer, the Rebbe connects it to the Hayyam of Me'eves and Shana. It's Muggah. Then the Rebbe starts with Sikha, and the Rebbe says, how could you be mung by a Yid that he should be able to be Yisod B'Simcha when he knows that when he goes out into the street is very dark, and the street is trembling, the street is shackled. So the Rebbe said, Kapitel Kuf Chaf Aleph, which you say once you turn 120, is the answer. That Ma'ayin Yavi Ezri, it's Me'ayin from a higher source. The Rebbe later in the Sikha, and that's what the game in your name says, on a month here he is in Brooklyn, New York, on a Thursday night, Parshas Chayesara, so we're a week later, Thursday night, Parshas Chayesara. And he's thinking, what do I have a shaykhis to what happened 120 years ago in a klein shtetl in Lubavitch? Like, well, what kind of shaykhis do I have? Zakman dir, the month from dir. That the dim regoyim, these humans that you ready for breaking. You should forget about. Oh, the Rebbe said he's standing here in Brooklyn and he's thinking what happened to business yesterday and what's going to be business tomorrow. How is he supposed to connect to something that happened 120 years ago? Month from them, out the dim regoyim. You hear me for breaking? You should forget about everything. The only thing that do is a chassid. For the Seder Eino. And besides, you close your eyes. And you misbeided, and you were able to see as if you're going into the Rebbe Nishmas Eitan, you're hearing a Maimach. Rosh Chodesh Kislev is the day that the Rebbe showed us that he is not mugbul in Teva. That Chaya Tzadik ain't a Chayim Sorit. That a Tzadik is able to transcend Teva, is able to transcend all of these in Yod. What does it mean to us? That from time to time, we should try to transcend and elevate ourselves to a higher level. Go the beyond. You take a David Deitch and you say, look, the Rebbe said 3 times a day, I don't know how, we're going to find a way. It doesn't make sense, but there's going to be. And not only am I going to lose money, I'm going to make money. And this is what happened when the Rebbe said, Shabbos Bereshis, Sarat Simchas Torah Tafshin Mem. When the Rebbe told Chassidim that it's Simchas Torah, and they're able to stand in a higher level, that during the Niggun, when they dance, if they think and b'machshava they're going to give money beyond their ability, then the Rebbe promises there's going to be chamish for paroi, v'arba yodes yilachem, you're able to see 4 times as much. I was a little kid and I don't remember what happened, but apparently there's a lot of shishkirai afterwards. You heard inside trading. The Rebbe revealed a hot tip of how you can make a lot of money. You remember when you just got married that there was good stock. The shushkin, remember? And the mikveh. That was 40 years. That's 5 years, 6 years earlier. People had kindness. Why didn't you tell me that there was good stock? It's good to go up. But here it was. The Rebbe said, "Give money, and you're gonna be able." But the Rebbe addressed it to next one, bringing my Tzayshas Bereshit, which this you can hear in tape. So after the Rashi Sikha, the Rebbe says, "Kanamakim to talk about what happened in Simchas." And those who thought that this is appeal, we need money, we're going to raise money. Charity, the earliest
For sponsors.
the earliest form of charity, Tafshiman. Give whatever you give, it grows 4 times as much. This is a given, not to the stocker gets 4 times as much. You received 4,000. The Rebbe said, I had nothing to do. It's not an appeal, it's not a gift. The Rebbe said even that there were those organizations, the Rebbe said, Moshe's Chinuch, that thought that since the beginning of the year, there's you guys know, there's like a surplus, there's a cash flow. In the beginning of the year, there's a better cash flow than let's say, after Pesach, right? So let's give the Rebbe the smat and the surplus, and to go to the docks, we have haven, it's going to grow. We're not going to have to raise money, no charities. The Rebbe said, that's not a make. The Rebbe said like this, those, the Rebbe said, Keli HaNefesh. All I wanted was the soul. Azaydi Mehalchi Nach Rosh Hashanah, and after Tshuva, and after Yom Kippur, and after first Yom Sukkot. So I was expecting that everyone's going to stand the Rebbe's HaNefesh. Terrible. So this we have asked.
It'll be good. Let's not come back tomorrow. Good job, bro.
I don't know if this is the water of the mashk. Right?
Now it's too late.
Doesn't matter, right? Have a light.
Too late.
You say the chayim for me.
I'm the same for me.
So the Rebbe says, it wasn't about how much money you're going to give, it's how much soul you're going to give. After a shading keeper, you should have been on a higher level. The Hartzveitik says the Rebbe, that even those who gave did not give anything that they should have, like up to par. The Rebbe said, those who gave and meant it in earnest will receive Arba Yodas. And if not, do me a favor, go into the Midas and pick up your money. I don't want it. I don't want it. The Rebbe even used a lotion, machmidish ink. It's going to make me uncomfortable. I don't need your money. So what does it mean? It means that the Rebbe is asking us today, on Rosh Chodesh Kislev, on the day that the Rebbe demonstrated to the world that a tzaddik is able to transcend normal activity, is able to come out of a serious situation. What does it mean from us? That we have to. You remember, I said this earlier, maybe before you came. Yisrael Freeman saying, Rosh Chodesh Kislev has a bocher, geht reis von Saal, geht rein in Library, und das war bekennen, stecht dem Rebbe in the Herzen. Rosh Chodesh Kislev, the day the Rebbe gave us to be the Hebrew. You know the story with J.J. Hecht. There was, I think it was Rabbi Avremel Sternberg, maybe it was Tafshinun, maybe it was his last Rabbi, I think it was Zion, where he turned to them after the parade and he asked them, how was it? And it was unbelievable. So he said, the Rebbe was Maresh geschleppt. He was like in a very down mood before the parade. The Rebbe said, nicht Maresh geschleppt, aufgehen. Aufgehen. The Rebbe's whole matter was to lift up. What did the Rebbe say to Rabbi Weinberg? And they left it.
Yeah.
Huh? As a Rebbe, that's shlich. So, you understood with Rabbi Weinberg?
What's the
Rabbi Weinberg once received a request from a Makanta to ask the Rebbe for an urgent request. It was late at night, came to 770, he met one of the Maskirim. He says, I have to ask, he says, write a title, but I'm going inside. And so he figured he'll write a title. While the master is inside, used to be that the door to the attack was open. So while the master was inside the Rebbe's room, he put the letter like on the doorknob, figuring that when the masker opens the door, the letter will drop. And what will the masker do? Pick it up and give it to the Rebbe. But apparently the masker did not notice the letter dropping. So when the master came out, he said, "You saw the letter?" He said, "No." So what did you realize? Who's going to pick it up?
Yeah,
You never heard the story?
sounds familiar.
Everyone knows the story. Everybody doesn't know the story either?
Even I know the story.
Even you know the story, right?
Just finish the story.
Huh? She wrote to the Rebbe an apology letter saying that he caused the Rebbe to bend down. Now you understand.
Yeah.
To bend down and lift the letter. He asked the Rebbe an apology. So the Rebbe answered him, had a exact code, this is what my pastor did. To bend down, to pick up, especially that which was overlooked by others. What does the Rebbe want? The Rebbe wants to pick up chiyuv. The Rebbe wants to lift chiyuv. The Rebbe wants to demand from us that we can do more. We can be uplifted. We don't have to be restricted to our narrow mindedness. We're able to do something much greater. Chai.
This is good.
Huh? Borenstein,
Oh, Shemaya, Rosh.
Zago Chai.
Be the Chaim.
Jesus Zago Chai. Was ist das? Adib ist kein Zago Chai, Zago ist noch Chai. Adib ist kein Zago Chai, Zago Chai.
Yeah. Yeah.
The boss already at 12 years old, they already know better than us, buddy.
The Mendel makes Chas nach Finster vom Buttel. Jetzt kann Finster vom Kost. Zago Chai! I don't like spectators.
You know what Yasser Gaffer would say?
Even the Chai.
He would say, tight dimension.
No.
Really, tell it by the ounce? Tell it by the ounce? So what? They keep coming. In this neighborhood.
Have a life. The Marazov can't run the Chaim, like you said. The Marazov was ich can.
It's a different one.
The Marazov was the Chaim. I thought Zalman Marazov was the
After Zayde. Nothing Zayde.
Maybe after 40.
Let him say 3. I haven't seen him these days.
Obviously.
You say one.
Gershon can run the Chaim.
I'm not like everyone else.
He has properties in Guac too. You know there somewhere?
I don't work there.
They moved on. They moved on.
I did a few times.
The Lev is a coach. Tells everyone what they need. Yeah.
Is your coach?
What?
He wishes I was coach. There'll be much more than one sign, one picture that I've been donated. You can't even get heat in your own office.
Hi, let's go, wake up! It's Chaim Kislev.
Time.
I'd have to be the only clown.
Another rhetorical question.
Fine.
The Rebbe wants everyone to do what they can. What does it mean that everyone should do what they can? You could think that everyone should do what they can means, wow, it's so much, I can't do it. The Rebbe says, you do what you can. And everything will work out. Peacefully, כחודש המאחת. ואני אבטח לכם, כפסח שלום. Open up a little needle, and I will open up the door as wide as the ulam, which was the widest door possible. What does the Rebbe want from us? The Rebbe wants from us do something. The Rebbe cried so many times at farbremgs. When I say cry, I don't mean literally with tears, but he cried. Whether it was 33 Jahre kein ein Finger nicht reingetrunken in kaltes Wasser. What did you do? Do something. Do something. Put your finger in, at least even in cold water. Well, that's good. Put it to hot water. Put it into cold water. Do something. The Rebbe often quoted the Mayim Chazal with Chalim ben Deser. You know the story with Chalim ben Deser? He had this large stone. He wanted to bring this heavy stone to Yerushalayim. He counted the heavy stone. This would be beautiful to bring to the Bedek HaBayis, right? It was way too heavy for him to carry. So Malachim came and said to him, put your fingers below the stone and you'll see you'll be able to carry it. And they ended up carrying it to Yerushalayim. You need to do an etzpchtana. We need to do something. Epis. Something small, how small it may be. And then we're able to do what we have to do. The Rebbe you based Thomas 1 year, it was Tav Shchavav. They were born. I heard this from the Rebbe. The Rebbe spoke about a famous story. There's a story. What's a story? Everyone knows the story that the Tzemach Tzedek was once playing with plate film made out of potatoes and potato peel. That story you know? Huh? Which story? Which part of the story do you know?
The whole story? This is the Maimon.
What's the story? The story was that the Chassidim in the Alter Rebbe's room, they wanted Chazar of a Maimer, Shlosh Dvarim Maimer. So Tzedek was playing with plate foam before JET came out with the plastic plate foam, right?
No, who invented it.
The Tzedek invented it with potatoes.
You know what they do, by the way.
The plastic, I don't know. Who's explaining?
Who? Your brother?
Big brother.
Oh.
Little kids wanted to put on some. Realize it's a problem with the straps because
Okay, anyway.
took old straps, started figuring out where you got to put the Velcro, old jack, you know, okay.
So, the Tzedek played with potatoes. And Eisel Humler was having trouble with the whole idea. What is this little kid doing over here? He's disturbing. He's not allowing us to concentrate, playing with his phone. So now Rebbe said that his machshava is Rebbe said one day you're going to see that he's actually listening.
That's the Maimon.
And that was the first member that Tzemach Tzedek said when he became an. That story is famous. But there's a story before the story. That story you know too.
What was the story?
That the Chassidim were waiting
Oh, of course.
in Ganei Atach. The Alter Rebbe to finish davening. You know the story? You know the story. And finally got the signal to go in. Everyone got in. Besides, Rabbi Avremel stayed behind. Why did they stay behind? He suddenly felt, I'm the youngest of the Chabura, I don't fit it. Still don't know the story. The Alter Rebbe says that somebody's missing. The Alter Rebbe asked who's missing. So somebody answered, Einer Ayugerman. Has never been. Again, the Kashmir. Ubruch. Einer Ayugerman. So the Alter Rebbe said, a younger man converted an alter man. Zolar Arayne. Still know the story. Now you understand. A young man could become an old man, let him go. So the Rebbe makes a whole pupil out of this. The Rebbe says that there's a cloud of Nigla, whether you learn the Sechta Sukkah, you learn the Sechta Vayazar, you learn whatever the Sechta you learn, you should have got Kachim in this cloud. Kol Ha'imid Yisaref Kesarav Dam. If something is destined to be burned, it's considered burned. Kol Ha'imid Ligvois, if it's destined to be collected, Gavri Dam will be considered as
All the pledges.
whatever it is, just do. So the Rebbe says, one could understand this cloud in one of two ways. One is that it's a reality. That's the Matthias. And once we know that it's destined to be collected, that we burn, we consider it as if it's already. That's one way. The second way is that it's a halachic application. It's a ruchnistic thing. Has nothing to do with paramount. So the Rebbe said like this. If they were hearing the Maimer for the first time, then age does not play a factor. Because you're hearing a Maimer, it's like, it's like hearing it in the high Sinai. It has nothing to do with your level of your ability, your cognitive, what's the word? Whether you're fit, your intellectual capacity. It has nothing to do with that. But since it's Chazara means you have to commit it to memory, you have to understand it. Over there, L'chaira, Reiv Shana, Yagido Chachma. Age gives experience, gives talent, develops talent. So what does it mean that you're going to come an Altman? So it must be that Alter Rebbe understood Pshat, that the man convert an Altman, and it's a mitzvah, it's not a halacha. You're actually going to be.
It's local.
It's a mitzvah. But see, here is the beauty. Huh? It's already. No, here the Rebbe asked a question. Here comes the question. The Rebbe said, if the Alter Rebbe holds that it's a mitzvah, why did they say, man convert an Alter man? Man vet an Alter man. A young man is going to become an old man, therefore he's already an old man. What's come means it's possible, it's not sure. We're not sure. So now the Rebbe explains, because nothing in Chassidus can be an autopilot. There's no memela. Nothing happens in automatic. The Alter Rebbe said, "Man come and out." The Ba'izah hears it, but he has to agree to do something about it. It has to be, he can do whatever it takes, his little part to become Alter, and he'll become Alter. In other words, everything we have from the Rebbe gives us so many possibilities to connect, to be able to be a shaykh, to have a shaykh with the Rebbe, to be able to truly be chassidus from the Rebbe. But that we're going to do something about it. That we're going to give a little bit of a hazaza. We're going to learn a little bit in the morning. We're not talking about for you. We're talking about in the morning. It's your field. No? What's your field? He's from the senior faculty. I think he's even from before Muslim, no?
Yeah.
Did Allah recognizes the
huge plaque hanging.
And I think that he also was from before us, right?
Yeah.
You too, right?
Me too.
You too? Who are you?
Who
Who are you? Later much. What's your name? Which Yassi?
Moshe's Yassi.
Huh? Moshe.
He was a talent in that first group.
Ben Avremel Sternberg.
When he was 10.
Avremel was 10.
Oh.
Out. We'll tell him that.
That's why we're saying.
Came to me, what year? She had listened with who? Shmuel son? Yeah?
I don't know.
Molly was your class?
That class also.
Yeah, I just met Rosenfeld at the Kiddush.
Shmuley would love these tables.
I asked him if he misses not being
No, on Zoom.
So it's fine.
Why not? When he has some juice, but just try something.
Now, if he misses being in yeshiva, whatever that is, he has a schus. He started the yeshiva. Whatever one thing is the most suitable, he started the yeshiva.
Just as applied.
He misses he had a special, different style, whatever. Which one is the mashka?
Good guess, good laugh.
I remember there's a guy who came, I was missing.
Who?
Some guy came to Farbrengs.
Who?
15 years ago, he tells us,
You were here, Mrs.?
where I was in Toronto, the guys going on around, the guys that understand it, it's up to me, I wish I could come back to the yeshiva. I was sitting there at 15, I'm like, I swear to you, I will never want to come back to the yeshiva. Listen, I'm near content, I'm over 30 already. I never want to go back to the yeshiva.
Well, you're okay when you turn 50, you want to go back.
Not this guy.
Just look, he moved back to the Haven to come back to the yeshiva.
No, not to yeshiva. I
No.
will never go back to the yeshiva. If not, I don't.
Why do you say that?
That's okay. He didn't go through the Haven. And this guy didn't do the Haven.
Das verstehe ich. Da wir leben, du bist älter werden. Das
Listen, I
verstehe
definitely
ich.
appreciate that. I didn't have to pay any bills. I didn't have any cries. Just stand in the yeshiva. Brother.
There is a cup.
You could have smoked up on the beach. Not there.
Why do you have to say you just sing when everyone's singing?
No, because this guy came and he said bringing that he wishes he could come back to yeshiva. And I remember thinking then, I'm like, there's no way. No way.
You don't wish that you would live a little more, but don't live a life.
Well, I'm doing yeshiva. I still never want to go back to yeshiva.
Fine.
David Lay, you're gonna have soon, you're gonna be saying, I want to go back to
David, you ever have an aspiration to, like, I want to be a tefach.
Yeah, but I'm doing yeshiva.
That means going back to yeshiva.
No.
Without the restrictions of the principle.
He says he wants to be the truth, he wants to become holier. All those things are nice and bad. But to say that you wish you could go back to the days that I could sit in the yeshiva.
To be, what do we do? We go back to yeshiva. To be able to live a life of ignorance is bliss. I don't have any.
Mid-bed.
We're holding the fort. We're holding the fort. He just
It's almost chatzais because once we change the chacham, it'll be chatzais.
And then give it
Who is this chassan? Who is this chassan?
Emmett Gillis. Emmett
Who?
He's from near Emmett Gillis. Not far from you.
Emmet.
Gillis.
Yes. Where do you live?
Here.
What do you say? Not far from you.
No, he's from Hartford.
Originally from Hartford.
Yeah, what's that? Why do you have to
Hartford
rub it
is
all
just as
that?
far as
He has to rub in his wounds.
Yes, is Allah. Your birthday is later, like it's Shvat Adar, right?
No, we just passed.
When? Ezra's birthday?
Yeah.
You brought Shlomo Zarchi and have a cake already?
That was the Mendy Rosenfeld season.
No, it's Corona.
2 weeks.
2 weeks will be your birthday?
No, this week we'll try to finish it.
Shmuley Hecht still goes to, Shmuley Hecht still goes to Hebron for Shabbos.
When was the last time you said this was going to bring it?
Last year, hey, Taylor's. No, 2 years ago. he did. Hi.
Chaim.
You have to stay a bisschen hecher from that.
The Vedeb is a
Atzme.
still spell for that.
That's it. That exactly.
Hezer zu.
It is a Masuda. He's very Masuda. But should we say all your minus now?
Yeah, it's good to know. Just why a guy in the side of the show here.
Aha! Ay, 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 ay. Ba, 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 ba.
Ay, 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 ay. اسمه خايم. Da, da, da. Ay, 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 ay. كيسي لكم
Ay, la, la, la.
Some ladies at the front class with the paper brush.
Oh. Mando. L'chaim. Yosef. Huh?
Battle?
I guess he's saying a reminiscent of a Lupsker. What's that? A Lupsker.
How did you get here?
What do you think? I didn't drive here.
Came by plane?
Came by Uber.
Oh, man,
What are you going to drive here and then figure out how I'm going to get back?
No.
You'll drive now? You
drive home anyways.
It's the Hasidim.
You drive home anyways.
It's the Hasidim. You should say the Chaim. And you should be able to drive. You shouldn't be able to drive you out. I shouldn't have to take an Uber.
It's a lot for you. It's nothing to drive you home.
Yes, we'll stand it for the minute.
Chaim. Chaim.
By the way, do you have a reserved Uber or is Uber is just relying on Uber?
What?
When I came here, I ordered an Uber. 2 Ubers canceled 2 minutes before they were supposed to arrive. And that's why I came late.
Yeah, I'm over there. What do you think you guys need to
I was
do now?
nervously. My first Uber was supposed to come 9:01. I came 9:19 because 2 Ubers later.
Why they cancel?
If they don't want to drive an hour away. Why?
I believe in the stand.
Usually they wait for these people. The whole night.
Hi.
More money probably in the city, stuff and those stuff.
Okay, what cities? No cities. Where are you going to drive in London?
Where's there to go? We follow the way. Nobody has to go anyway.
The submarine note.
Adrei bestemme gebe genote webe vamezem bitozer
Let's come off a point. Ede, stemme,
Oh,
yeah.
You think so? Now they see Mamish the light. Hey,
Hey, are people there?
there's 4 people.
Yeah, I think it's a fake. Okay, 4 people for real?
What thing?
People
Abby
thought-
Dagan, Bobby Dagan.
Bots.
People fell asleep.
Yeah,
These
bots.
people fell
You
asleep.
scared them. You started screaming to them.
Nah, most of the people on YouTube is now.
How does he was see you? Wait, see?
I can. My phone's locked.
Fine.
Where's the closest?
Okay, so we tell them then we're gonna.
What's that?
Yeah, but tell them something.
I think you're working as like that, because on the Shabbos, I just tell the Vayizrach Yitzchak, Vayimsameh Shorim. That means we have to do.
So
The Abish that has to, we have to do a lot of things before it's over. Can't have vote. He's a Yitzchak. Then again, Machem. None of us are prepared. Als Bnei Adam daarvoor maken als man. Had al een goed Shabbos.
Zeg eens,